Hey guys, how's it going? This is Tomes coming back for episode 2 of SeaWorld Hawaii. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building more of the actual entrance area in the park. So if you notice that there's these four kind of patches of grass right here in the middle of the path, we're actually going to turn those into little aquariums. This is kind of based off of SeaWorld San Diego. What they have in their park is they have these little tanks kind of situated under coral reefs here. And so we're going to be kind of replicating that, doing our own little spin on it, and seeing what we can get. This is my first time really working with the adventure pieces. I got the pack. I've never really had a use. My style of park was never really kind of built for this sort of thing. But I found these pieces. I think they're really good. We eventually sink them to a lower height so they work a little better for peeps. But the idea is that these little tanks, they would have some kind of like touch tanks to be able to reach over, see your first couple of wildlife. Just kind of a good entrance to a park like this. It's our first animal exhibit too, so kind of excited. We're going to be having quite a few animal exhibits, quite a few shows in the park, which is going to require a lot of really backstage work too to really make those work. I really want to try to keep it as realistic as possible, so when we have these giant, huge tanks, we're going to need the facilities to actually be able to treat that water and keep it safe for the animals. But over here, as you can see, I'm starting to place down the archer. I get a little bit of a better height there. I kind of went with these pieces. I felt they looked a little bit like some like Atlantean ruins almost. We'll actually have an entire little area, probably very close to this entrance area, all themed on the Atlantean continents themselves. That way we'll have our journey to Atlantis. Right now I'm kind of planning for that to be more of like a SeaWorld Orlando, kind of a much bigger scale, using the in-game water coaster. So hopefully we'll get something kind of cool there. Here I'm placing some sand down. I tried to do a little bit of terrain work. There's not much there that will actually go up. So one trick, this actually comes from the Roller Coaster Tycoon days. I remember there was a competition on Shy Guys World, and someone made some type of like whale show or something like that, and they used glass to give the appearance of water. It's not the most convincing effect in the world in Planet Coaster, just because when you overlap, it kind of has that like doubling up look. But I think it does the job. It's basically, we're not gonna be able to actually fill these things with real water just because they're above ground. But we'll be able to put this in, and at least gives kind of the appearance that there's some water there. And then we'll throw in some rocks and foliage and things like that. I'm hoping once the Theme Maker Toolkit is out, we'll be able to come through and really be able to spruce up some of these areas and make them look a little more realistic. Here I'm going to start putting down some seaweed. Just get the idea that, this is an actual tank, this is ocean. There's more in there than just a couple glass panels and some siding. But yeah, as I said, once the Theme Maker's Toolkit, this is me trying to play with some water ideas, maybe use some pyrotechnics or something. I ended up settling on getting a couple bubbles in there, make it look like the water's kind of being like filtered in and out, whatnot. But yeah, kids would come over here, stick their hands in, touch fish. I know in the actual San Diego version, they have like cleaner fish, which actually will come over and eat the bacteria off your hands. Apparently, it's almost like ticklish, from what I've seen in some reports I've looked at. Here we're just placing some more of that seaweed, just kind of more selling the idea that this is meant to be, a tank for actual fish. We had one that's kind of going over. A couple rocks that are actually sticking up. Now here we're actually going to start working on the covers. So as I said in the beginning, the entrance area before you get into the park, like the ticketing booths, is meant to be the beach. As you walk into the under the wave entrance, it's like walking into the ocean. So now we're kind of in what would be the coral reef. So the driftwood pieces actually are recolorable, so I'm trying to use those as coral pieces. Now, I originally used it for all of them. Got a couple different varieties and different colors. I ended up actually getting rid of those a little later and switching to some other ideas and some other methods I found to make a little bit more realistic stocks. It hopefully kind of sell the idea and make it look not so one-dimensional. Now here we're actually putting the covers over it. So we're having kind of like a two-layered system using these art-shaped pieces to sell the idea that it's a layered coral reef, having a little lighter on the bottom, a little darker on top. Once again, this is stuff I kind of stole from San Diego's park. Here we're putting in some. They're not really bubbles, but they're kind of just would be kind of like little see-through points or whatnot. As you can see, we had a cut there, and so the rest are done, and we're actually going in and changing some of the coral reef pieces. Now, I'm not sure what happened. I guess my recording kind of just stopped. But I missed. We put in a stroller section, as well as a stroller rental, as well as lockers, so you can store stuff in the park. Here I realized we don't actually have a park exit because you wouldn't want people just walking back through the turnstiles. So we're building this other little path right here that is going to serve as the exit. So as you see, I'm actually replicating some of the other parts in the park just to kind of keep the cohesion and theming there. Making just another little stalk. Just try to keep something just nice and light and make sure we actually have a sign that says, exit only, so people aren't going to walk through accidentally or try to walk into the exit. I got some feedback from some other people who play the game in the if you're familiar with the series Bro Coaster, their Discord, Bro Nation. I post a lot of this stuff there, and they gave me some ideas to kind of spruce it up. You see, we actually changed some of the colors, kind of make it a little lighter, a little more like a little more blue, and in order to get some little extra texture and try to make it not so just kind of boring, we're adding some more little fish pieces, some more to just kind of give the idea that this is an ocean life, and we're also trying to carry over some of the ideas from the main entrance. As you see, we also add some seaweed and some rocks down below, carried over some of those lampposts we made in the last episode over here, and we've kind of just expanded the reef so that it's a little more interesting. Here we're adding some more bubbles to the sides and just trying to keep it a little more, a little different. Now, another thing I noticed that I messed up on, over here, this little entrance pergola is actually going to be where you would go through security. So we end up moving this over, and we end up adding another, like a third segment to this. And this is going to be our actual security checkpoint. So here, I'm actually making a little table. You can go to a lot of these parks. There's entrances for people with bags, without. So this little table is where your security guards would actually kind of go through people's bags, make sure there's not bringing anything they're not supposed to into the park. Here we're actually doing some little metal detectors. We're taking the actual Christmas lights and using that to make it look like, there's the red and green lights that let you know if you can go in or not. And then we're just replicating that over. The third one, we're getting rid of the table because it's going to be for people who don't have bags. It's a little more of an express line. Another cut there. What we're doing over here is we're going to be able to start like kind of expanding onto the area and getting us out of this little entrance. So a bit of a pause here. I think this is where I was doing a little bit of research. So we're going to build a little ice cream stand right here. Try to get some more of our first food options into the park and whatnot. So we're going here. We're using more of these temple pieces. The gold pieces, when you recolor them, they actually give a really nice kind of glossy texture that I thought worked well. There you can see us taking the archer and making sure we have our scales right. And we're just making kind of a little like wave pattern to give this a little extra texture, kind of make it seem like more of one piece than a couple pieces put together. We're going to replicate it over there. Since this is, a little ice cream shop, there's going to be little sections. This is going to be an actual like little cooler. If you go in, you see, because we'll obviously have more than just ice cream. So this would be where you get, maybe like a muffin or a bagel or something, just really quick service. You see a lot of places like this in the intro, like the beginnings of parks, just for people when they first walk in the morning. A lot of people, they're driving pretty long distances to get to a park. They may not have stopped for breakfast, so this is a good little option. Later in the day, it's going to be probably more people buying ice cream, but early in the morning, you might have people buying, like I said, muffins, stuff like that. Put a little more glass up there to kind of sell the idea. I couldn't really get it to fit exactly as I wanted, but I think it did a serviceable job. I haven't figured out exactly how to fill this little cabinet. Most of the pieces are just enormous and don't really fit. So this is our little counter area where people actually go. And we're going to have a little wall back there, and we're going to try to do some alternating colors. I'll kind of match the color scheme that's going on with the main area, and this is also going to get a very similar covering to what the fish tanks will get. Here, just putting a little back counter. This would be where all that stuff's actually prepared. Plenty of the colors. And we're going to expand the actual counters a little bit just to make sure that they fit in and they're what we need. That no one's gonna be able to get into it from a different side. Just expanding that little pattern there. I like to use the display things as cash registers. I think they do a good job of it, and I think that it's a lot easier than trying to build some of the other art pieces. I think it looks convincing. I think the texture on it is good. So I like to use that. You'll probably see me do that in a lot of shops and things like that. So you can see I'm doing the same pattern and stuff I did with the fish tanks to kind of give this a roof. We're going to dress it up a little bit. One thing I've been worried about with this part of the park is I don't want it to get too repetitive. Because obviously we're using the same colors, we're using the same ideas, it's going to get really repetitive really quick. So we're actually not going to have a whole lot of shops in this little entrance area, especially back where it is. Here I'm going to restructure the path a little bit, actually to give it some room to put some planters in, to get a little more green, just to break it up, like I said, because we don't want it to get overly repetitive. And I'm just copying over some of these coral stalks, to basically support the roof, give a little more detail, give a little bit of a little different color to it, a little expand to it. I can't remember who, but someone recommended I use the dead trees as coral. I think the texture actually works surprisingly really well. I was not expecting that at all, but it really sells the idea of coral. Here we're going working out some of the planters, throwing some rocks. I've been trying to do some research on what you would see in Hawaii in terms of foliage, and it's been a little bit of a struggle. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up going through and ripping all this up and just completely redoing it. I think I'm going a little overboard on the palms. I'm not even sure if half those palms would even be found there. We're going to go work here on a little bit of a sign. It's not really a sign, but it's more of a kind of like a little set piece. So the idea is we're going to try to make a whale out of the ice cream cone. And the whole place is going to be called like Shamu Shakes. Someone recommended and noticed that I had the tail facing the wrong direction. Should have known that. But whales, they have a horizontal dorsal fin. So we had to, not dorsal, tail fin. So we had to go and change that. This area is just going to be a little planter. One thing I've noticed really a lot, looking at all of the SeaWorld parks in general, all the bush parks in general, they're really well manicured. And you have a lot of areas that you can tell they're like highly decorative foliage, a lot of hedging, a lot of flowers. A lot of it is very regimented, and it's made to look aesthetically pleasing. They put a ton of effort into that, so that's going to be something I'm going to try to do. This is actually a planter. I kind of got the idea of this based off of, once again, San Diego's entrance. For the most part, all the references I've been using, even San Diego to this point. But once we break away from the entrance area, we'll probably change. Here we're going to build a little fence. Now, my idea for this area that will be behind the fence is I'm going to try to bulk it up with some bamboo behind it and some trees, and there's going to be an actual water treatment facility. Because right over here, we're probably going to work into our first exhibit. I believe I want to do dolphins. I'm not totally sure. I think that's kind of what I've been looking towards. Most of the SeaWorld parks have their dolphin exhibit pretty close to the entrance. So I believe that means that this area that would be going ahead right there would probably be our, I want to say, Caribbean area. Kind of going with some like Key West architecture, that sort of thing. A lot of colors, a lot of corrugated roof, clapboard, stuff like that. Here we're adding some more path borders, just kind of separating off these planters. The color of it, as you can tell, is pretty close to the actual path, so we want to make sure we have some pretty distinguishable areas. I mixed the mulch texture and the sand texture, kind of give it a little darker appearance than what it normally is. I think it looks better for sure than what it did before. If you do just sand or just mulch, we do still want to sell the idea that this is a themed area kind of by the beach. Now, one thing I don't think I've actually mentioned about this park is, the SeaWorld parks as they exist now, all of them have grown organically over the years. They've opened, and you can tell. You look at places, and you look at SeaWorld Orlando's old penguin exhibit. It's tiny, but here we're going to try to actually build a pre-planned park. I guess that's the end of my footage. Enjoy the cinematics, and I hope to see you next episode. Thanks.